Better Call Saul Season 6 Episode 1 and 2 Ending Explained. It's finally returned for its long-awaited final season. With so much to pick up from at the end of Season 5 and to unpack from the first two episodes, how was the opening for Season 6? Well, let's find out. Here is Better Call Saul Season 6 Episode 1 and 2 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The main thing that we saw in Episode 1 of Season 6 between Saul Goodman and Kim was them planning a plot of revenge against Howard Hamlin and getting him set up for possession of drugs. This was going to be by planting them in the locker in his country club and them being found. Whilst this was getting underway, we saw Nacho, who at this point just seemed like he had the weight of the world on his shoulders. Whenever it cuts to him, I feel he's made so many bad decisions and choices in the past, and he always ends up only one wrong move away from being killed. And we see this early on in Season 6. He's on the run from the cartel, seeing as though everybody thought that Nacho was dead based on the events that went down in the end of Season 5. And we saw him check into a motel where all he needed to do was keep his head down and wait everything out. In Episode 2, we saw Saul meet up with the Kettlemans, who are characters that we've not seen in a long while. Craig went to prison a while back, but he's out now and he's with his wife running a small business where they essentially rip people off. The Kettlemans want Craig's name to be in the clear and not associated with those crimes that they committed in the past, and Saul promises that he can help them with that. The way he does this is by spreading a rumor about how when Howard Hamlin was representing Craig in court, he'd taken some drugs and was not in a fit state of mind and should not have represented him, essentially making it a mistrial. After this, the Kettlemans started informing people of this information about how Howard was on drugs when he was representing Craig. So Jimmy is more than happy with that due to the fact that step 1 of the plot for revenge had been completed successfully. However, right at the end of the episode, in the final scene, the plan stopped going the way it should have done, with the Kettlemans finding out about how Saul was essentially using them as a pawn in his plan to character assassinate Howard. Every lawyer in town said that there was no chance of getting that case across the line. The Kettlemans essentially threatened to go to Howard and inform him of what Saul and Kim had been up to, unless he could exonerate Craig as promised. But it's here where we saw Kim stand up for herself and Saul in a cold, abrupt way. Kim got on the phone to somebody that she knew and threatened a report of tax fraud in front of them, which would land Craig back in prison for an extremely long period of time. After this being done, the Kettlemans settled down. Kim requested that they refund everybody that they've ever ripped off, to forget the name Howard Hamlin, implying that they can't report Saul and they should continue as they were. Saul and Kim no longer had anything to worry about, for the time being anyway. We saw an interesting side to Kim in this moment, a side that showed she felt as though she almost had nothing to lose. She was cold, fierce and extremely threatening. Now over to Nacho. After a brief period of time, he settled down and didn't necessarily feel on edge as much as we've seen him before. However, everybody from both corners of the cartel are after him, so it's not long before we saw him get spotted by the Salamanca crew. Here we saw an epic battle, and it seemed that they wanted to take Nacho in alive, as we saw a mobster harm somebody on his side as they were about to kill him. I think this is so they can torture and get more information out of him. In terms of if Nacho is going to make it out alive this season, I'm not 100% sold on that. He's burnt a ton of bridges over the past few years on every corner possible, and with us not seeing him in the sequel, I feel the cartel could be done with him once they have all of the information that they need. Just before we saw the final scene with the Kettlemans, we saw an extremely tense moment between Gus and Mike. They found out that Lalo was alive and not dead, which put the threat level up higher, and the need for them to be concerned. Mike is the logical thinker and stated how there's no reason for them to go after them unless they get Nacho, and he feeds them information, which I imagine he most likely will. So I think an imploding war between the cartels is inevitable and bound to happen, especially with them receiving a call from him and not knowing that he'd been kidnapped by the Salamanca crew, which leads me to think that Nacho is about to burn a few more bridges and spark the light that's needed for a war to begin. It was an epic start to Season 6, a relatively slow burner, but one that I feel will most certainly erupt over time. So, there you have it. What did you think? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.